In this video, we're going to discuss Ethereum, the crypto project, and its founder, Vitalik Buterin. And I'm going to use the tools of astrology in order to give you a level of insight into the essence, the purpose, and the future direction of this project that you have never heard before. So let's go. All right, friends, so we're going to discuss Ethereum. Ethereum is obviously a massive project with currently a market cap of $300 billion or so. And it's the second most important project in crypto after Bitcoin, still to this day, despite all of the Ethereum hunters and competitors that are trying to knock it off its second place throne, the Solanas and Cardanos and Polkadots and XRPs of the world. And Ethereum was basically the first blockchain to introduce smart contracts. It's a trailblazer in many ways, and it goes back to, as a project, and in some ways, the entire idea of smart contracts and all of these applications that blockchain can have to change the world and to bring about Web3 and decentralization and all of that. Those ideals that people have in the blockchain space, they in many ways go back to the work of the genius founder, Vitalik Buterin, who to this day still is the most influential person in the Ethereum space in ecosystem. Obviously, he doesn't own it. It's a decentralized space, but he still kind of calls the shots of where that project is going and is going to go to in future. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at Ethereum a little bit, but also and especially at Vitalik in this video. And we're going to use the astrology to figure out who he is and what his background is. Not his background in terms of like where he was born and so on, but in terms of his spiritual background, the background of the soul, the karmic background, the reincarnation astrology as well. So who was he before? And why does it matter? Why does it matter in terms of what his mission is, what his purpose is, what he's trying to do with this project? So now you're going to think like, oh, mind blown. I came here to learn about crypto, I'm to do some price predictions and price targets, financial astrology stuff. And now I'm hearing about reincarnation. So yeah, it might be surprising for you, but there are those levels and there are those layers. And only when we understand them fully can we have a real understanding of projects like this and their founders. So there's going to be a little bit of financial astrology as well with some predictions of what's going to happen with the project. But mainly this video is here to understand Vitalik as a person and as a founder and as a soul in order to see where he's taking this project and what will be the future of Ethereum. And I guarantee you we're going to get some very, very juicy and interesting insights on these fronts. So as I said, there is a lot of changes currently happening, a lot of developments that are being made and implemented on Ethereum, on the blockchain. They have this series of updates that have names like the merge, the verge, the plurge, the spurge, something like this. And each one of those updates is adding something really essential to the blockchain. It's kind of, moving from proof of work to proof of stake, and it's moving into different types of encryption and a lot of technical stuff. But you can see this when you look at the astrology actually right now, because this is the Ethereum Genesis chart, right? So I just need to make my picture smaller here. So this is the Ethereum Genesis chart. And by the way, when you look at assets, the asset chart, right? Like in this case, the chart of this asset of Ethereum is not necessarily the most useful thing to tell you the price, where the price is going to go, right? Because that depends mostly on the market conditions. If the whole market goes up, it's going to go up. If the market goes down, it's going to go down, right? It's very difficult for an asset to completely outperform its market or be like counter to the market. So the asset chart is not primarily serving you to find out about how this particular asset is going to perform, but it's very useful if you want to see what will happen to the asset still, right? And it can tell you how the asset will perform relative to its basket of comparables, basically, right? So for that purpose, it's actually very telling. And what we see here, and obviously it tells you about the dynamics of the project, what's happening in the project, right? And that could be interesting for you from different perspectives as well, especially if you're a long-term investor and you want to understand where this project is going to. Or if you have an interest beyond just the monetary interest, right? If you're participating, you're a programmer or whatnot, right? A believer in the ecosystem, in the project. So be that as it may, we've got currently in the chart, you've got the transit of Uranus. This is transiting Uranus, right? Transiting Uranus is right now here in the late degrees of Taurus. And as you can see, it's directly opposite their natal Saturn, the natal Saturn of Ethereum, right? This is a Uranus opposite Saturn transit. So the textbook definition for that is that you're going to revolutionize and change, right, through higher ideas, which is Uranus, the structures, the foundations, the fundamentals, which is Saturn. And this is obviously exactly what's happening right now, right? So it's getting revamped. The whole project is getting revamped this year, 24 and 25. It's going to be set up to be somewhere new. It's going to be a new thing, basically. It's going to have completely new capabilities. Now, the question is, where is it going, right? Where is it going? What is Ethereum becoming? And in order to know that, we have to listen to Vitalik Buterin. And Vitalik has been saying that the journey is going towards the original ideas of the cypherpunk movement, of the cypherpunk ideas, which are about decentralization and applying decentralized tools or providing decentralized tools for Web3 and for society. Now, when you look at Vitalik's own writings recently, it's all been very, very philosophical. He's written this article that I'm just showing you here. This was just published on plurality philosophy. And he's basically talking about how to design society differently and by using techniques and technologies like Ethereum. And it's basically about governance. It's about social governance. It's about technologies that enable governance for society. It's basically the interface between technology and society that he's interested in, and that he wants to revolutionize, and that he wants to completely reform in order to make it decentralized, completely decentralized, right? So I think at this point, it's time for us to look at his chart, right? And see what we're seeing here and why this is his intention. What is he trying to do? Like, where does this come from? Because spiritually, we have to understand that souls, especially those that have a mission, right, that are born to fulfill a big mission, right, a mission that has some impact on humanity, they typically tend to be doing this for multiple incarnations. It's not their first time, because it takes time to work yourself up. It takes lifetimes, basically, to work yourself up to have that level of impact, right, or have that level of conviction into a idea, right, to change things or to bring things about. And when you look at his chart, we see, first of all, here's a guy who is very fittingly with the Aquarius in Sun in the second house, right? So Aquarius is obviously the revolutionary reform ideas, right? The utopian reform ideas, and it's in the second house, so about money, reform ideas about values and money, right? In the Sun, it's with asteroid Utopia. You see this? King as well. The king of utopians, right? Who have ideas for how to change money, right? Second house is money and values. And then we've got a square to Jupiter here from that same Sun, right? And the Jupiter is with yen, a currency, right? Gold, type of value, and apostle, right? So kind of the preacher, right? The preacher of currency, the preacher of new value, right? Or of great value, gold and yen, right? With Jupiter, expansive. In 11, right? In 10, right? In the 10th house. So this is his social calling and his social mission. And we add to that a Sagittarius ascendant, right? To create a missionary, right? As a Sagittarius ascendant, your soul mission is to be a missionary of sorts, like somebody who's driving a mission. And the ascendant shows you the intention of the soul, right? The soul mission. It's the first step in order to understand it. Obviously, we look afterward at the MC and at the whole rest of everything else, how it plays together, but the ascendant is always the first step. So this already checks out with regards to the character, right? Totally checks out, obviously. Like, this totally checks out. He's a revolutionary with regards to money, utopian with regards to values, and he's preaching a new form of dealing with money, with values, right? All of that checks out. Now, what else do we got? We've got here the Uranus-Neptune conjunction, right? The mystic rebels, he's a mystic rebel, that these guys can download higher level information very immediately, right? People born in this time, right, in these years, which is the 90s basically, right? The 90s kids, they are mystic rebels. They have this immediate access. The very late 80s are starting, but it's mostly the 90s, right? The 90s kids, they have this immediate access to higher level information that they can get without having to meditate or do very, very difficult pranayama or very difficult yoga or very difficult whatever. All the other stuff that other generations have to do to get access to the higher level information. The mystic rebels, the 90s kids, they don't need to do that, right? They just get the access like this, which is good, but it can also be bad because they can get lost in virtual worlds and in dreams and illusions and, you know, unreality, like on social media, you know, social media made up worlds and stuff, much easier. But anyways, with regards to him, with regards to Vitalik, he has got very tellingly, you know, he's downloading those ideas. Obviously, he's getting the downloads. And which asteroids are here with those downloads? Tesla and Edison. Tesla and Edison. Ta-da! Right? So you can see, like, this is basically, you can see, after you see me do a couple of charts like this, you know, you understand the level of reality, of truth that's written in the chart is just incredible, right? It's incredible. It's far more than what anybody would think and what anybody could have even known just years ago when we didn't have this information yet, right? Tesla and Edison, the two great inventors. So he downloads these ideas from higher dimensions, which are about inventions, right? He can invent stuff, like just like this. He just comes up with those inventions. And lastly, what do we got here on the MC? I said we got to look at the MC2 to find out where somebody's going. We've got Pandora, Manhattan, and America. Pandora, right? Manhattan, finance, the finance world. This is how it's going to be seen eventually, right? And Pandora, that sounds like, okay, this is like the box of Pandora. When you open it, all the bad things come out. And America, okay, this is pretty self-explanatory. This is where he's going to have his most impact eventually. But let me move ahead now and tell you what we can see and what we can learn about Vitalik Buterin's mission by understanding his karma better. His karma, which is written in the chart as well, and which shows us who he was in a previous lifetime, or who basically, which previous life or which previous personality he resonates with on the level of transmigration. So how this all works, I will tell you in other videos. There's lots of different theories around this. There's also a lot of new scientific work now on reincarnation. We're going to look into that in detail as well. But for now, suffice it to say that there is a certain type of resonance between personalities that lived in the past and personalities who live today, because they draw on the same archetypal reservoir of energies and conscious experiences. The kind of like points that are connected in this stream of consciousness. You have this universal stream of consciousness, right, that flows through time. And then you have these points that are connected in that flow of consciousness, right? So that's what reincarnation means. And we have all the signs in the chart that tell us. We have all the signs. So first of all, he's got a sun. His sun is, let me tell you something else first. First of all, he's got Mars here on Tell, William Tell, right? And Bishop, Catholic bishops fighting against Catholic bishops. Tell was a Swiss freedom fighter. William Tell, a Swiss freedom fighter. He's got Apt. Apt means the leader of a monastery on his Saturn. Which Saturn is difficult karma, right? And then he's got on his moon. Moon is very, very important. Moon is very, very important because it's the store of karma. It's one of the first things we look at when we want to understand the karmic past. It's on Credo and Helvetia. Credo, the believer, right? Or somebody who is important for faith and belief. And Helvetia, what's Helvetia? It's Switzerland. Helvetia is the Latin name for Switzerland, right? So the person who is in his past life, he fought against Catholic bishops. And he was somebody who had a great impact on the faith of Switzerland, or in Switzerland, on faith within Switzerland. And we still see here, his Pluto is his Rahu. You see here, Rahu is the karmic axis. Pluto is about dark encounters, dark energy, right? Dark energy encounters that are karmic, that are on the karmic axis with Gottesmann. Gottesmann means the man of God, and Vatican. So dark karmic encounter with the Vatican as a man of God, somebody who influenced Swiss creed and credo. And now we got the final piece right here on his sun, the identity. We have here not just Utopian King, but we have the asteroid exactly on his sun, Zwingli. So who was Ulrich Zwingli? I'm going to put the picture up here so you can see. One other important factor in reincarnation astrology is that the soul that reincarnates is going to have a resonance on the physical level as well, because your expression, your facial expression, because your face basically expresses the underlying spirit. The spirit expresses itself in the face, right? So this is why you need to see facial similarity as well, in addition to the clear markers that I just showed you in the astrology. And we can tell very clearly the similarity is remarkable, that Vitalik Buterin was Ulrich Zwingli, who is a Swiss reformer. He was a reformer of the church, a Protestant reformer, who basically fought against the Vatican, and he fought for decentralization. His whole thing was to fight for decentralization. He wanted to decentralize the church. He wanted to have individual autonomy. He basically, he was one of these Protestants whose whole thing was that every individual should have direct access to God. You don't need all the intercessions and the systems of indulgences that the Catholic Church was kind of notorious for. And instead, he basically advocated decentralization, individual autonomy, and transparency, right? So exactly the things that Vitalik Buterin is advocating today. And this is another thing that you'll often find once you start to understand the laws of karma, and once you start to understand the repetition of patterns, of archetypal patterns throughout history, you will understand that specific personalities who have a mission, they will return, or parts of their soul will return. Obviously, certain parts do not return. The body, the mind, and so on and so forth, it stays, it vanishes, it's gone, right? We have different levels and layers. We have a body, we have a soul, we have spirit. That's as well for other videos where I will explain that more, right? But we need to understand that certain aspects of a spirit, they return again and again in order to pursue the same mission, but obviously with completely new means. They return in a situation and in a place where they can pursue that mission much better, and with the new means that are given right now. And this is obviously in the case of Zwingli, who is now Vitalik Buterin. This is technology, right? So the utopian drive that he has in order to bring new values, right? Aquarius sun with utopia, with Zwingli, right? Is much better now lived, is much better realized by becoming a technology leader, by creating Ethereum, right? Because he can advocate decentralization and personal autonomy there, and so on and so forth. And obviously also Vitalik, born in Russia, went to Canada and then came where to found Ethereum and the Ethereum Foundation? Switzerland. He founded it in Switzerland. That's another important thing, because souls tend to have certain relationships with geographies and with places, and they are pulled to those places by the laws of karma as well. Now, what are you going to do with this information? Well, first of all, we're going to do much more of these on this channel, because it helps us understand how the higher laws of reality work. This is knowledge which is only recently starting to become widely available, only in this recent paradigm shift that is going on now, and it gives us an entirely new view on the history of humanity. But on a more concrete level, when we look at the development of Ethereum, this can be useful information as well. So when we look at what Ethereum is doing right now, I told you already it's going through all of those big changes and all of those big developments. And Vitalik himself is being very active. If you look at his chart, he's got the Jupiter settling on a trine on his descendant. Is in transit right now. So you see this here. It's right here, right? To his nice second house planets. And it's going to be there for a while. And then after that, this is basically in this whole time when Ethereum is doing all of these changes, the Jupiter is going to be in his sixth house, and it's going to trine all of his sixth house, second house planets, including the Sun and Venus, and then Mercury. And so this is going to be extremely productive time for Vitalik, extremely productive. The next 7-8 months are going to be, this bull run basically that we're in, are going to be extremely productive. And he's going to be very successful with work, with any kind of work related things. The sixth house is obviously work, and the second house is his financial planets, his identity, his purpose, his mission. He's going to be very successful in bringing to fruition a lot of these projects. And then starting from May of next year, is going to step out into a new social role, right? With Jupiter crossing the horizon, is going to be socially much more active and much more visible. And at the same time, when Vitalik becomes socially more active and more visible, we also have that same Uranus to Saturn transit of the Ethereum Genesis chart perfecting as well. So the change of Ethereum into becoming something new. So we can put this together, and we can see that by the end of this bull run, or at the peak of this bull run in 2025, Ethereum is really going to step forward as something brand new, or something, let's say, highly evolved, not brand new, as something highly evolved. And it's going to evolve in the direction of the original vision of Vitalik, which is decentralization, which is personal autonomy, which is Web3, which is privacy, voting, all of those things, all those ideals, those reform ideas. He is at heart a reformer. Much more so than a businessman. He's a reformer. He's somebody who has ideas that he's fighting for, and he already died for these. In his past incarnations, he died in a war against the Catholics, against the Vatican, because he was fighting for his convictions. And he's going to fight for his convictions again. Now, are those convictions going to lead to some successes? Is his project going to be successful? I'll leave that for yourself to think about, and for future videos as well. Make sure, if you haven't done so yet, to subscribe to this channel. It's going to be far more like this on this channel, and only here, nowhere else in the entire worlds of the internets and the interwebs. This is the only place where you get this content, and you are amongst the first people right now who are getting this content. You are amongst a small group of people who is getting this very, very exclusive content that gives you an entirely new perspective on things. Also, I'm now open again to work with individuals. I do consultations. Again, there are some spots open if you'd like to work with me directly on crypto strategies and personal development and destiny analysis and destiny optimization, risk mitigation based on cycle analysis and all of that. Look below, you'll find the links, you'll be able to do so. Also, let me know in the comments who you want to see next. There is so many different angles and people and important organizations to shed a light on, to understand better, so that we can really do the X-ray vision and get a higher level of understanding on what's going on in the world. So I want to see that. Please in the comments let me know who you want to see next and what you think about the revelations that I shared with you here. And until the next time, I wish you all the best. Be well, be blessed.